Welcome to Shining a Light, the podcast that uncovers the stories hiding in plain sight. I'm your host, Tabitha, and today we're delving into a tale of power, influence, and intrigue that has captivated and disturbed in equal measure. This is the story of two men, Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein, whose paths crossed in the opulent halls of Mar-a-Lago, setting the stage for a complex relationship that would later become the subject of intense scrutiny and speculation. So let's shine a light on the shadows of power and uncover the enigmatic connection between Trump and Epstein. Picture the late 1980s or early 90s, where cameras captured the elite at various high society events in New York City. Among the guests are Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein. Trump, a real estate magnate, and Epstein, a financier with a growing reputation, are seen enjoying a lavish lifestyle. By their side is Ghislaine Maxwell, Epstein's confidant, adding another layer to this intricate web of connections. Trump's Mar-a-Lago estate in Palm Beach, Florida, was a well-known social hub for the elite, and Epstein was known to frequent the area. They may have met or interacted at events held at Mar-a-Lago or other social venues. Additionally, their mutual involvement in real estate and finance could have facilitated an introduction through business acquaintances or industry events. Ghislaine Maxwell was born into privilege on December 25, 1961. In Maison Lafitte, Ile-de-France, France, she was the youngest of 9 children of Elizabeth and Robert Maxwell. Her father, Robert Maxwell, was a controversial media proprietor known for his significant influence and financial misconduct, including looting his own company's pension funds. On November 5, 1991, Robert Maxwell died under mysterious circumstances, found dead near his luxury yacht off the coast of the Canary Islands. The official ruling was accidental drowning, but the circumstances fueled speculation and conspiracy theories, including potential foul play or suicide. However, the rumor is that he fell off of his boat while peeing in the water. The death of Robert Maxwell had a profound impact on Ghislaine and the rest of the Maxwell family. The financial scandal that followed led to the collapse of his business empire, leaving the family in financial ruin and social disgrace. Ghislaine later relocated to New York, where she became involved with Jeffrey Epstein, who provided her with financial support and a renewed sense of social standing. She became a fixture in Epstein's life, often described as his lady of the house, and a key figure in his social and professional circles. By 1992, Trump and Epstein's association was visible as they were seen together at Mar-a-Lago. In a 2002 interview, Trump described Epstein as a terrific guy, and Epstein boasted about being Trump's closest friend for a decade. However, behind the scenes, cracks were beginning to show in this seemingly unbreakable bond. By the early 2000s, their once strong friendship had begun to unravel due to personal and professional conflicts. Epstein claimed that Trump had cheated him out of a lucrative real estate deal in Palm Beach, Florida. According to Epstein, Trump manipulated the terms, ultimately sidelining him and securing the property for himself under more favorable conditions. Trump later sold the property to a Russian buyer for a significantly higher profit, raising eyebrows and questions about the nature of the transaction. This falling out marked a dramatic end to their high-profile friendship by 2004, highlighting a clash of egos and ambitions in the cutthroat world they inhabited. In 2005, Epstein's world began to unravel when he was arrested on charges of sexual offenses, sending shockwaves through the elite circles he once navigated with ease. The legal case against Epstein took a controversial turn when he struck a plea deal with then U.S. Attorney Alex Acosta in Florida. This so-called sweetheart deal allowed Epstein to plead guilty to lesser state charges of soliciting prostitution, avoiding federal charges that could have resulted in a much harsher sentence. The leniency of this deal raised serious questions about the justice system's handling of powerful individuals and sparked widespread criticism. One figure connected to this controversy is Pam Bondi, who served as the Attorney General of Florida. Bondi's connection to the Epstein case came under scrutiny when it was revealed that she had received a campaign donation from Epstein around the time her office was considering whether to pursue further legal action against him. As Epstein's legal troubles continued, Donald Trump's star was on the rise. In 2016, he was elected President of the United States, a position that placed him at the center of global attention. Even as he ascended to the highest office in the land, the specter of his past association with Epstein loomed large. In 2019, Epstein's luck finally ran out. He was arrested once again, this time on federal charges for sex trafficking of minors. The indictment accused Epstein of operating a sex trafficking ring, using his wealth and influence to lure and manipulate his victims. Despite his high-profile legal team and attempts to secure bail, Epstein was denied release and remained in custody at the Metropolitan Correctional Center in New York City while awaiting trial. Tragically, the case took a dramatic turn when Epstein was found dead in his jail cell on August 10, 2019. The official ruling was suicide by hanging, but his conclusion was met with widespread skepticism and fueled numerous conspiracy theories, adding to the intrigue and mystery of the case. Ghislaine Maxwell's involvement with Jeffrey Epstein took a dark turn as she became implicated in his criminal activities. Victims have accused Maxwell of playing a central and active role in recruiting, grooming, and abusing underage girls for Epstein. One of the most prominent accusers is Virginia Roberts Guffey, who claims that she was recruited by Maxwell at the age of 16 while working at Mar-a-Lago. Guffey has described Maxwell as a central figure in her exploitation, often present during the abuse and playing an active role in it. Guffey's accusations extend to other powerful individuals, most notably Prince Andrew, Duke of York. She has alleged that she was trafficked to Prince Andrew by Epstein and Maxwell on multiple occasions, including when she was underage. These accusations have had significant repercussions for Prince Andrew's public image and royal duties. In 2021, Ghislaine Maxwell was convicted of sex trafficking and other offenses related to Epstein's abuse of minors. Her trial revealed the extent of her involvement in Epstein's crimes, including her active participation in the grooming and manipulation of young girls. Maxwell's sentencing to 20 years in prison marked a significant milestone to the pursuit of justice for Epstein's victims. However, the story didn't end with Epstein's death and Maxwell's conviction. The release of the Epstein files in the years that followed only added to the intrigue, with Trump's name redacted from some references, leaving many to wonder about the true nature of his relationship with Epstein. As the Epstein case continued to unfold, it became a reoccurring topic in political discourse. Donald Trump and other Republicans repeatedly used the promise of releasing the Epstein files as a talking point and campaign promise. However, accusations have surfaced suggesting that Trump and his administration are attempting to protect him from being exposed in the Epstein files. During Trump's presidency, Pam Bondi stated that the Epstein files were on her desk for review, fueling speculation and anticipation. In an effort to manage the narrative, Bondi invited MAGA social media content creators to the White House and provided them with binders containing information related to the Epstein case. However, much of this information had already been released to the public, leading to the criticism and accusations of misdirection. The political battle over the Epstein files has intensified, with Democrats pushing for their release as a matter of public interest and accountability. In contrast, Republicans have taken steps to block or delay voting on the release of the files, leading to accusations that they are more interested in protecting their own than seeking justice for Epstein's victims. Adding to the intrigue, a newly announced meeting at J.D. Vance's home has sparked speculation. It is rumored that attendees included Pam Bondi, Donald Trump, Kash Patel, Dan Bongino, Todd Blanche, and others. The purpose of this meeting is speculated to be an effort to get their story straight and maintain a united front amidst the ongoing scrutiny and investigations. Before I conclude today's episode, I have a special segment to share with you. I am privileged to include exclusive audio clips from Michael Wolff, the biographer of Jeffrey Epstein, who provides never-before-heard insights and incidents detailing the complex and troubling friendship between Jeffrey Epstein and Donald Trump. These revelations shed new light on the depths of their association and offer a deeper understanding of the dynamics at play. I extend my gratitude to the Midas Touch channel for providing these impactful clips and to Michael Wolff for his bravery in coming forward to share his knowledge with the public. It is through such courageous acts that I can continue to uncover the truth and foster meaningful discussions on these critical issues.
Yesterday in Scotland, Donald Trump was falling all over himself to explain when he stopped being friends with Jeffrey Epstein. An acknowledgement, by the way, that they were friends. Let's see if we can establish a timeline for this, for both Trump's explanation and Epstein's explanation of what happened. Trump says that he threw Epstein out of Mar-a-Lago. Epstein, by the way, had never been a member of Mar-a-Lago. Threw Epstein out of Mar-a-Lago and stopped being friends with him because he was stealing Mar-a-Lago employees. Someone, a member of the press, asked him, did he mean Virginia Giuffre, or then she was then Virginia Roberts, who became one of Epstein's accusers? And Trump said yes, immediately latched onto that. But in fact, Epstein hired Virginia Roberts Giuffre in 2000. And we can chart a continued friendship between these two men in plain manifests, photographs, phone calls, and in fact, a picture of Epstein at Trump's wedding to Melania in 2005. So this relationship that Trump now says ended in 2000 actually demonstrably continues to at least 2005. And just by the way, it is that period from 2000 to 2005 in which most of the allegations against Epstein take place. Now, Epstein's explanation for why this friendship ended is as follows. In 2004, Epstein believed himself to be the high bidder on a piece of real estate in Palm Beach, a house. $36 million was his bid. He took his friend Trump around to see the house to advise him on how to move the swimming pool. Trump thereupon went around Epstein's back and bid $40 million for the house and got the property. Epstein, who was well acquainted, in fact, deeply involved with Trump's scattered finances, understood that he didn't have $40 million to pay for this house. Now, if that was the case, it was someone else's $40 million. At the time, Epstein believed this to be the $40 million of a Russian oligarch by the name of Rybolev. Less than 2 years later, this same house that Trump had bought for $40 million was sold for $95 million. And it was, in fact, sold to Mr. Rybolev. This is all a red flag of money laundering. And what Epstein did, and he was furious about losing this house. I mean, there's something about these guys that nothing rouses them so much as a real estate betrayal. Epstein, after the sale of this house, after Trump went around his back, got this house, Epstein began to threaten him. He began to threaten him with lawsuits. He began to threaten him with going to the press and saying that Trump was a front man for a money laundering deal. Trump panics at this point, and Epstein believed, and he believed to his dying day, that it was Trump who went to the police, Trump who was fully acquainted with what was going on at Epstein's house, fully acquainted for many years. Trump went to the police and, as Epstein said, dropped the dime on him. That is to say, informed the police of what was going on, and an investigation began, and all of Epstein's legal problems for the next 15 years began to unfold. This story about this piece of real estate and their falling out was first published in June 2019. It was published actually in my book, Siege, the second book I had written about the Trump White House. Epstein had recounted this story to me. I put it in this book. Epstein at that moment was in Paris. He read the book. He called me with some alarm, and he said he was afraid that he might have said too much. 3 weeks later, he returned to the United States from Paris and was promptly arrested on the tarmac of Teterboro Airport in New Jersey when his plane landed. I had a conversation yesterday with someone who speaks to Trump often, and this person had spoken to Trump in the last 48 hours. Now, a really good way to understand what's on Trump's mind is to track the conversations that he has with this set of people who he calls often. I think my feeling has always been that that Trump needs to think out loud, and calling this list of people who he appears to trust, even though they might call me afterwards, is a way really to follow exactly what is on Trump's mind. In this conversation that he had within the last several days, he said to this person, "People say I had Epstein killed. I didn't have Epstein killed," Trump said. And then this person said, "Well, do you think that he was killed?" And Trump replied, "A lot of people wanted him dead." I find this, to be honestly, a chilling conversation, which I've been thinking about. The idea that the President of the United States would have to say and go out of his way to say that he hadn't had someone killed seems chillingly to imply that he could have had someone killed. And there's a way that Trump has often spoken about his belief that assassinations, both domestic and foreign, have been freely carried out by the United States government. And then the idea that there are a whole population of people who wanted Epstein dead. And Trump seems to include himself in this. And again, it's that sense on the part of Trump that he believed Epstein knew too much. And certainly in the case of Trump, Epstein could fill in a whole part of the Trump background. Those early days, Trump's early days in the real estate business, in New York. And the real estate business in New York is filled with, as a matter of fact, I don't know how you can be in the real estate business without having direct connections to organized crime. Certainly that was one of the things that Epstein talked about. There are years in which the two of these guys were pursuing models, doing whatever they could to get these women. This period in Trump's life when there have been accusations after accusations by a whole lineup of women. And then this was the period in Trump's life of his bankruptcies. And Epstein had an interesting view on this, because Trump was forgiven personal loans that he had guaranteed personally of about $1 billion. Now, when you're forgiven personal loans, that immediately becomes income. And Epstein would talk about his involvement with Trump in hiding this money from the IRS. What did Epstein know about Trump? That's a foundational question here. And I've spent a lot of time thinking about the ways in which Epstein was a clear threat to Trump, and especially after he became the president of the United States. But I think it's also important to think about what kind of threat Trump was to Epstein. I know at one point when Epstein would show me these pictures of Trump, again, I would describe these before, but a set of about a dozen Polaroid pictures, 3 of which I specifically remember. 2 with different girls sitting on Trump's lap, topless, and then a third with a telltale stain on the front of Trump's pants, with 4 or 5 girls pointing at this, topless girls pointing at him and laughing. And I urged I urged Epstein. I said, you should release these pictures. I mean, if for no other reason, I mean, and Epstein was already in trouble and already a figure which people were, he was already demonized. I said, maybe this will even help you. You can be on the side of right here. And I remember Epstein said, again, chilling at the time, he said, I may be a pervert, but I'm not crazy. And then he said, Trump is a man without any scruples. Chill went up my back then. And I think this brings us to August 10th, 2019, in that jail cell. And obviously all of the questions about what happened that morning are involved with why this story keeps going. And the question, I think that the largest question hovers over that is what did Donald Trump know about what happened that night? And I think in all of the Epstein files, that is the singular and pivotal question we need answered. Donald Trump has appointed his personal attorneys to the most important and powerful positions in the United States Justice Department. They are his shock troops for doing exactly what he wants to do. Anybody who's ever dealt with attorneys knows that in most instances, they tell you what you can't do before they tell you what you might be able to do. That's entirely been turned on its head in the Trump administration. There's no filter. They do what he wants them to do. No pushback, no consideration. They get orders, they follow them. Pam Bondi, on her own volition, said that she was going to release these Epstein files and immediately reversed herself as soon as a furious call came from the White House. And by the way, Trump is on the phone with her many times a day, giving her direct and explicit orders. Todd Blanche went down as soon as the Ghislaine Maxwell, the threat of Ghislaine Maxwell became real. On the president's orders, he was sent down. He was sent to Florida to figure out what she knew. Emile Beauvais, who has just been appointed to the appellate court, and in all likelihood will be Trump's first choice to the Supreme Court. Alina Habba in New Jersey, who was rejected as the federal prosecutor, but Trump has overruled the courts and imposed her on that office. These are not just loyalists. Something else has happened here. Something broken in these people. During his recent courtroom appearances throughout the campaign, there was one one moment that he had what he thought was a particularly bad day in court, and usually he thought every day was a bad day in court. And afterwards, he lined up all of his attorneys, just made them line up, and then walked back and forth, and then yelled at them when he thought they were fidgeting. And then he finally said, "I want to ask you something," voice dripping with contempt. "I want to ask you something. Have you ever heard of a man by the name of Perry Mason?" This was not a rhetorical question. He made them each answer. Did they know who Perry Mason was? And then he asked them, "I want you to tell me if you can do what Perry did." And I guess what he meant by that was Perry Mason was a television lawyer and he won every case. It is there were constantly examples of this kind of treatment, a contemptuousness, a cruelty even. Once, in one occasion, Alina Habba lost a motion and they came out of court and he just directed a stream of obscenities at her, literally saying, "You are a piece of shit." These are the same people, understand this, who now run the United States justice system. So it is not just that they are loyalists, not just that they are professionals who work for Donald Trump, but I'm going to argue that these are broken people. They understand that if you make a pact, a devil's pact to work with Donald Trump, you don't have an alternative to disagree with him. You are his person. He owns you, and he owns you because of his contempt for you. Stockholm syndrome, I suppose. And this goes kind of even beyond this to create a culture in which there is no other alternative but to bend and break. Now, the Trump legal circle is really run by a man by the name of Boris Epstein. And this is Boris has been in the Trump circle since the 2016 campaign and been learned a greater level of being abject than almost everybody else. I mean, he is the ultimate yes man. I mean, there is in the Boris consciousness no to Donald Trump. No, nothing but just to be pliant, just to actually know precisely what Donald Trump wants to hear and to be able to say it. That's what Boris has learned. And he basically has hired all of these lawyers and basically is always critiquing them to Donald Trump, critiquing them on their level of loyalty. And always coming back to telling them exactly what Donald Trump wants. So this is an ever reinforcing circle of Trump whims, desires, capriciousness, and always, of course, cruelty. This is the world. This is the way Donald Trump governs. And what he's trying to do, what he has done to these lawyers is effectively not that different from what he has done to most members of his own party. You can extend this to what he is now doing to institutions across government and outside of government. Harvard, Brown, yesterday with its settlement, Columbia. It is government by contempt. He needs to dominate. He needs to force. He needs people to bend to him. And he will do this in a way and does this in a way. I mean, he can't give up. He just goes on. The discussions throughout the campaign, the discussions in his inner circle about how he treated these lawyers. I mean, it scared everybody. For one person to be able to treat other people like this without that barrier, without that shred of empathy for other people, particularly people who work for you. And it is that everyone is considered a piece of pawn, disposable. He assumes the worst of everyone and proceeds to treat them that way. And you might think that would mean that people would run from him. And of course, many do, but many don't. And those are the people who now populate the executive branch of the United States government, Donald Trump's government. One of the many things that Jeffrey Epstein and Donald Trump had in common was their obsession with the royal family. At one point in the mid-90s, after Diana and Charles's marriage started to fall apart, Trump and Epstein had a bet with each other about who could sleep with Diana first. I don't know, by the way, if either of them ever won that bet. There was a point at which Epstein was asked to be the guy. Apparently this was a thing, like a job, a position, who would slip into the seat next to Diana at certain functions when whoever she was with got up. So she could never be seated next to an empty chair. And when Epstein got this job, he bickered with Trump about who wanted the introductions to also get this job. Epstein wouldn't give it to him. What they understood, and many, many people have understood this before them, is that the royal family was one of the great social climbing vectors in the world. If you were involved with the royal family, engaged with the royal family, familiar to the royal family, able to bring the members of the royal family with you, all doors opened. You could have access to anyone you wanted to have access to. This raised both your stature and the possibilities in your life. So here were these two guys, parvenus, vulgarians, who by this, in part because of their connection to the royal family, suddenly had access to all of the all of the status and all of the financial circles of the world. I mean, here were two guys, and again we have to ask this question: how did they do it? How did Epstein, who came from nowhere, how did Trump, who came through bankruptcy after bankruptcy, how did both of these guys yet become figures in the world? I mean, figures of enormous wealth and standing. The agent of their royal family plan was Ghislaine Maxwell, with her deep connections throughout British society. The plan for both Epstein and Trump, this was their mutual plan, was to focus on Prince Andrew and to ply him with girls, for which he had an insatiable appetite, and money, which he was always short of and in desperate need for. Now, this is a key issue right now in the way the White House is looking at the Epstein scandal. The fear is that Ghislaine Maxwell can tie Donald Trump to the details of what Trump and Epstein called the Pussy Committee. The Pussy Committee consisted of Trump and Epstein in their efforts to get girls for Prince Andrew. Let me step back, because I think that this is incredibly important, a historic note to focus on this word pussy, a word that they use constantly and casually and meaningfully. This was their currency and reward. It was how they saw the world. This was their point of power and a point of leverage. Girls, but somehow something different by using the word pussy. Coupled with Prince Andrew, what this added up to for both men was status, wealth, influence, and royal entitlement. Again, how did these two men, Jeffrey Epstein, Donald Trump, come to be what they are? Well, Prince Andrew and pussy start to explain a lot.
As we conclude this episode of Shining a Light, we are reminded that the world is full of stories that hide in plain sight. The intricate web of relationships, power, and influence surrounding Jeffrey Epstein, Donald Trump, and Ghislaine Maxwell continues to captivate and disturb. The stories of those who were affected by these events remind us of the profound impact and lasting scars left on the victims and survivors. The speculation surrounding Ghislaine Maxwell's potential pardon adds another layer of intrigue to this already convoluted saga. There have been whispers and allegations that Maxwell might receive a pardon, possibly due to her connections with influential figures of the sensitive information she may possess. As we reflect on the events and revelations discussed, it is crucial to remember the importance of seeking justice and transparency. The victims' bravery in coming forward and sharing their stories has shed light on the darkest corners of power and privilege. Their fight for accountability and closure must not be overshadowed by political maneuvering or the machinations of those seeking to control the narrative. The Epstein case serves as a stark reminder of the need for vigilance and integrity in our institutions. It challenges us to question the systems that allow such abuses to occur and to demand better from those in positions of power. As more information comes to light and the story continues to unfold, we must remain committed to uncovering the truth, no matter how uncomfortable or inconvenient it may be. Thank you for joining me, Tabitha, on this journey through one of the most enigmatic and troubling chapters in recent history. Remember, only when we shine a light do we truly see. Until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and never stop seeking the truth.